Mairimashita Iruma-kun is this quasi-isekai that follows Iruma, a great kid with unfortunate circumstances, as he's adopted by a demon known as Sullivan, and now he's taken to the demon world where he has to rise through the ranks while attending the School of Babel. Along the way, he meets his schoolmates and friends, Clara, Alice, Ameri, and a ton more, as he's doing his very best to get to the top. And it's a nice manga. It's been going on for almost 400 issues at this point, with some scenes and plot points that are absolutely phenomenal. I mean, listen, I'm a guy that's always shipped these two together, so that dance, that's spectacular right there. But scratch that. Throw that all away, because what if we actually made the series a lot darker? Like a lot. Like, let's say we put it inside of a more realistic human world where things are more similar to where they are here. And let's say that these people in this society are a lot more demonic than the actual demons in the original story. Because that is exactly what you get with Mairimashita Iruma-kun if episode Mafia. A whole spin-off manga that's based off of the original universe's characters, relationships, dynamics, everything you can think of, but it just completely spices it up by giving us a completely different environment, art style, storyline. Everything else is essentially different. It hits, and it hits hard. And I gotta tell you, at some points, I'm actually thinking that it's actually better than the original story, which for some people might actually be a very audacious thing to say. But regardless, I'm Randy, and I wanted to talk to you guys about why I think this spin-off might be one of the best spin-offs that I've ever seen for any kind of anime or manga. Let's dive right in. So the original story is a ton more lighthearted. Sure, it portrays Iruma being this really unfortunate guy that is even sold off by his parents to a demon, but it never gets to the point where things are excessively violent or really sadistic and cynical in nature. Not like this alternate universe over here where everything is so much more depressing. Iruma is this boy that lives in the slums. He is, from where we first see him, completely on his own, and he manages to save this guy that is on death's door right over here, who turns out to be his new grandfather, adopting him into the Babel family, because it's no longer a school, it's now a whole mob organization. And this isn't some G-rated mob that you're gonna get in like a kid's manga. They don't pretend to be mobsters, they actually are. There is a lot of dirty work that's gonna be done, like intimidations, murders. Things are a lot murkier here than they really are in that demon world. I mean, the first time that we meet Alice over here, as he's trying to get into the Babel mob family, he's tasked to disassemble bodies of people that have betrayed the family. Just the sight of this guy with a chainsaw over here shows that he means actual business. And Iruma is not the kind of guy that's gonna shy away from this. From the time that he was a little boy, he's been raised up into now being the underboss, which means that his perception on things might be a little bit different than the Iruma that we're usually familiar with. Because I gotta tell you, this version of Iruma does not need to be in peak demon cycle to actually be badass. This guy's got this hunger, he's got this desire to him that he's gonna completely eat up everything around him to achieve exactly what he wants. That intimidating presence is felt several times throughout the entire manga, and it really shows you that this is a kid that actually deserves to be the underboss. But don't worry, even though he might be a million times more dark and edgy than our normal boy, he also has that same kind of like childlike wonder in terms of wanting to make things a lot better for everyone around. Very much like the original version of Iruma, he's gonna help as many people as he can. If it's someone that's going hungry, he's gonna try and feed them. If he sees someone suffering, he's gonna do his damnness to try and save them, regardless of if that's gonna be something that looks like it's gonna hurt the family or not. He's still that good kid at heart. It's just that this one's willing to do a few extra things to get everything done. And the series looks gorgeous. Somehow they maintained every single aesthetic that was in the original manga and interpreted it really beautifully by giving us these spreads that look outstanding. They really convey a sense of importance, and this is on a completely different playing field because people's lives are in danger in this. I mean, that's a pretty pivotal thing that I don't really care too much about in the original. I don't feel like anyone is actually on risk of dying or actually at risk of being extremely hurt. The second that you see a gun be pulled out in this series, that's gonna do some damage. These are normal people. From what we've seen so far, no one has some sort of supernatural power or anything. Everyone's equal as they face down a bullet. All of our characters look very similar to the original counterparts, but also have small changes, whether they've been aged up to fit certain roles or, you know, to fit whatever they're doing at that current moment. My favorite thing about this alternate universe over here has to be the story, because it is downright amazing. Whether we're focusing on trying to break Clara out from the circus so that she can find the rest of her family, or we're following Alice over here as he ends up being a spy for the police, and he's now infiltrated Iruma to try and find out what nefarious deeds this entire organization's up to, or if we follow Ameri over here, who's the leader of her own gang that's based in the slums where her and Iruma are originally from. Everyone's backstories, everything that is included here, it is so well done, and I am actually so much more interested in all of their backstories from this universe. My two favorite arcs so far have to be Iruma and Ameri's reunion, and then everything that just went down with Alice Asmodeus's betrayal of the Babel family, because that one is just peak storytelling when we get into it. I really want to talk about that one. But let's first jump into the reunion over here, because it's an inversion of what we really get with the original story. Something that this manga does exceptionally well is use elements that were just handpicked from that original story, and it uses them as like a backdrop or as a reference that makes us go like, oh, I remember that, or that's funny, or at least that's still stuck around. I mean, over here, we still get Iruma's familiar, but just in a different form, because now Caligo-sensei is just the mascot for Babel, and that's how they're gaining money. But over here, the dynamic between Iruma and Ameri is different because they both grew up in the slums. They're childhood friends that were trying to survive together. Instead of Iruma reading human romance books to Ameri, now what's happening is Ameri's actually reading to Iruma because she's the only one that can. They share this vision of what they want the slums to be and how beautiful everything actually can be. And then one day, Iruma just disappears. It's something that we as the audience know that Iruma was taken in by Don Sullivan, but it's something that hardens Ameri because she thinks that her friend might be in great danger. So now she's built up this reputation in hard shell because she's been trying to find her princess Iruma. Oh, and oh, look over here. This fountain and this scene over here, this dance looks pretty familiar, doesn't it? Yeah, shippers, we stay winning. But this entire arc is all about Ameri feeling that she has to protect Iruma because that's her memory of him. A guy that always needs to be protected, always needs to be saved. But at the end of the day, what happens? Iruma stops her from signing this contract that would essentially sign her soul away, and he saves her and the slums and shows her that he's not just a damsel in distress, as you can say. This shows us just how invested Iruma is into everything that he's doing and how he's willing to not even shoot a gun to continue on his mission for what he thinks is right. The boy still maintains that same level of dexterity that he's always got. He can dodge whatever you throw at him. At least here, it makes a lot more sense because he grew up in an environment where he had to do this or else he wouldn't survive. Or well, scratch that. You can actually say that about both series, right? And then next, we've got Alice with his conflicted worldviews, whether he should stay with Iruma or whether he should stay loyal to justice, authority, and the police over here. And it is spectacular. It's an arc that deals with things that are a lot darker, such as human trafficking, because that's where you're gonna find Clara's brother as someone that's being auctioned off, and where you get some of the most heart-wrenching moments because you don't expect these things to hit the same way that they do. Alice as a character is someone that's incredibly complex. He's someone that when we first meet him says that he wants to follow justice at all costs. Doesn't matter what ends up happening. It's something that inspires Iruma to want to hire him because he thinks that's just so cool. Which again is a little strange for a mobster to actually think justice is something that's cool, but that's the thing. Throughout the manga, we see flashbacks of Alice's movement upwards in the police ranks and how his family was associated with being officers, but then an incident occurred. Through whatever means necessary, he wants to put bad guys behind bars, but constantly he's proven wrong by Iruma and the Babel family. They're people that have their own sense of morality, their own sense of justice, and from what it looks like, most of the time, it's a justice and a moral scale that is a lot better than what we see with the police force and everything that they end up doing there. You want to talk about how dangerous guns are in this manga? What about the fact when Alice just deliberately shoots Iruma because, well, that's what he's supposed to be doing. That's exactly what he's ordered to do. Putting the kid at almost death's door and makes Alice spiral because he doesn't know what's right anymore. In a very understandable way, everyone in the Babel family wants to take out Alice for his actions against Iruma. I mean, come on, you're not gonna just shoot their boss and then get away with it, right? But here's the thing, when Iruma wakes up, he is just as greedy as he always was because he doesn't want any severe punishment. He doesn't want anything to really be done with Alice. He just wants him to be okay and happy. That's a classic Iruma move right there. So Iruma wants to continue with his plan of pretending to be someone that is gonna be auctioned off. Once Alice catches wind of this, that's when he decides, well, you know what? I'm just gonna go out in a blaze of glory. The confrontation between everyone over here and Iruma's arrival is fantastic, but what's even better is seeing Alice confront Ifrit, because this is a situation to where their morals are just completely opposed to one another's. As they're talking about the different methods of justice that are possible, Iruma is talking to Clara's brother, and they get to see this on one of the CCTVs over here, where Iruma is promising what seems to be the impossible. But Alice says that justice involves making the impossible a reality, and decides to blow up the entire room. And right after, Alice then walks out of that room he blew up, and he thinks about wanting to off himself. And where, again, because of how greedy this kid just is, comes Iruma saying that he wants him alive and he just wants him on his side. But both agree that it would be impossible for Alice to just come into the Babel family once more unharmed, so he decides to just sacrifice something that everyone can see to prove his loyalty to the family, thus showing us one of the most beautiful scenes in this entire manga, because oh my god, this is just stunning! That color page that we've got right over there, the intensity that's in Iruma's eyes, it is fantastic. This is phenomenal storytelling and growth that we're seeing from both characters. And it leads me to think, if this is what we've gotten so far and we're only like a few 20 chapters in, what are we gonna be getting in the future in terms of scenes that are this intense? I don't know, because this right now is a phenomenal run that this is having. I want to see so much more of this universe right now, but it's also something where the chapters come out not nearly as fast as the original storylines does. So I mean, I get it if we have to wait a little bit more on this, but it's just so good. I highly recommend that if you've read it or watched the original series, jump into this one. It's a completely fresh take on all these characters, and I don't think anyone that's already a fan isn't gonna enjoy it. There's so many hints and teases about that original universe that make everything so much more fun. Now, if you're someone that hasn't read or watched that original storyline, hell, to be honest, I actually think that you might actually have a hell of a fun time over here. It characterizes these people without the need of having any prior knowledge about anything whatsoever. It's a great inclusion to everything that we've got over here with Mairimashita Iruma, and I'm just psyched to see what's next. So here's where I bring it back to you. What do y'all think about this spin-off manga? Have y'all read it? Please tell me that you did. I'd love to know what your opinions are down in the comment section below. And as always, I was Randy, and I'll hopefully be seeing y'all next time. Peace.